Boy, that escalated quickly. I mean, that really got out of hand fast.
All right, ladies and gentlemen. So there has been a ton of Resident Evil 9 leaks that are hitting the internet right now from a known leaker in the Resident Evil community. And these leaks are insane. Some of them are talking about gameplay, some of them are talking about story elements. But there are two major parts of the leaks that I want to go over in today's video. The first of which is apparently Resident Evil 9 is going to be the last numerical entry in the franchise. It seems as if they are trying to basically tie up all the loose ends with Resident Evil 9 from a narrative perspective. When it comes to Raccoon City and every major character that you know, they're trying to tie up all the loose ends because after Resident Evil 9, they're apparently going to be doing either spin offs or taking the series in a new direction.
Because don't forget, even though it is called the ending and a new beginning, there's still remakes, okay? Because there's still we haven't have Code Veronica, RE5 and RE6, RE Revelation. I don't know if they're gonna do RE Revelation because if you don't know, when I first played Resident Evil Revelation, despite the monsters, well, the monsters looks good, but the atmosphere of the ship, that's next level horror, folks. It same goes for Revelation 2. So I don't know if they're going to do Code Veronica first, because you have to understand one thing. In order for Resident Evil Revelation and Revelation 2 RE5 and RE6 to be made or remake, is of course Code Veronica, because they still need to introduce young Chris Redfield. Yes, we've seen Chris Redfield in the newer ones, RE7, RE Village, and then RE9 if he ever gets there. But we haven't seen the younger version of Chris Redfield in the remakes. Yes, there were mentions, but we haven't seen pictures of it.
In this video, and we're also going to talk about the gameplay aspect, because I'm telling you right now, a lot of fans are going to be highly upset over this entire situation, because apparently Resident Evil Requiem is going to have combat like The Last of Us. I'm not kidding. It's going to be completely different, it seems, from what you're used to.
I don't know if I can get to because I never played The Last of Us. First and foremost, understand one thing. A tracked character cannot save a game that is either broken on launch or in this case have de nouveau in it. Because don't forget, I'm 100% certain that RE9 is gonna have de nouveau. And another thing, narrative, don't forget, Sweet Baby Inc. will try to get their hands on it. Let's face it, the only way they get their hands on it is localization. I hope the Japanese version doesn't have this. So to my viewers who want to experience the English version, best bet you just use the Japanese version. Or in this case, Japanese dub or Korean dub, whatever it is. So with The Last of Us, we all know how that ended up. Regardless whether they want to use it or not, let's hope it does not follow the same route when it comes to characters, okay? Because we all seen Abby's character and the whole internet clowning on it. Trust me, it's not going to end well.
And then we're going to get into the combat. Insider Dust Golem has been on a roll lately, constantly providing players with details on everything Resident Evil. Recently, they revealed that Resident Evil Requiem gameplay details, which features supposedly Last of Us combat, which we're going to get over. But now the same insider have provided players with story details for Resident Evil 9. So I'm not going to go over too many of the supposed spoilers that are in it. If you're watching this is a spoiler alert, but again, I'm not going to go over too much of the spoilers. I want to focus on the fact that they are claiming that this is going to be the last Resident Evil numerical game. It's stated that Capcom will make Resident Evil Requiem the last numbered game in the franchise, and that Resident Evil 9 will not only be a conclusion chapter, but also a new beginning for Resident Evil as a whole. Moreover, it will be the end of the timeline and the conclusion of everything to do with Umbrella, Raccoon City, and its legacy and long history. This move will enable them to implement significant changes to the franchise. Now, this is where it gets very worrisome, right? As somebody who's a fan of Resident Evil, I wouldn't call myself an ultra mega fan, but I'm a pretty big fan of Resident Evil. I love Resident Evil. To see what they're doing, I don't know, it's a little bit worrisome, because for me, I've already seen how they've tried desperately to keep the games numerical, but also change things. And it's drawn in some new fans, but it's also lost some of the old school fans, especially when they went first person with the 7th iteration of the game. Then they eventually ended up adding back third person in the 8th game and beyond. And now we know that third person is going to be in Resident Evil 9 as well. But they tried to go somewhere different with 7, and then they end up kind of coming back to what they're comfortable with, because let's be real, Capcom likes to put out things that they know that they're comfortable with.
It doesn't matter whether you have attractive character or unattractive. The one core thing you have to know is, of course, besides story, gameplay. Remember one thing, Resident Evil is a survival horror. What can diversity character be good at if your gameplay isn't a survival horror? Because if you sacrifice survival horror, then those diversity characters, whether it's attractive or not, it will be useless. And most importantly, I'm not exactly a big fan. I think I started Resident Evil way too late. I started with Resident Evil 4. You know, the first survival horror game that actually introduced me to Resident Evil is House of the Dead. I haven't played RE1 or RE2, RE3, the OG. I played OG RE4. That's where I first started. I don't know, when it comes to POV, like say first person or third person, I think many people, to be honest, it depends on the controller, okay? Because we all know that when games are now in multi-plat, you have to make sure the controllers will bind to not just on controller, but on keyboard and mouse. Most people, I'm 100% certain, some of you uses keyboard and mouse instead of controller. So for me, I think starting on Resident Evil 5, I usually use keyboard and mouse. I didn't use controller because, here, let me show you. See the ones up here I'm showing you? See this? Because I have to press this. It looks good on paper, but to be honest, when I'm comfortable on keyboard and mouse, I just use keyboard and mouse, okay?
Requiem will also serve as a conclusion to everything that began with Resident Evil 1, Resident Evil 2, and Resident Evil 0. The series will now introduce new characters, new type of horror stories, without being tied down by the series history. The team has faced several restrictions over the years, including tying all of the game elements to Umbrella, Raccoon City, and all other locations. So it seems like they want to tell a story within the Resident Evil universe that is not tied to the origin stories. They seemingly are having problems connecting all of it together. And while I can understand that might be a little bit difficult, at the end of the day, you guys created this entire story. You guys created this world that people have been enjoying for so many years now. You guys created this, and I give you props for at least trying to connect all the dots and make it all make sense. But if this is truly too difficult for you, then I really don't know what to tell you other than, I guess, nuke the whole fucking thing, which it seems like that's what they're planning to do. Now, let's talk about the biggest issue with all of this, okay? It's not necessarily the end of the numerical franchise. It's more so about where they're going with the gameplay. I see a lot of people complaining about this now that these leaks are out there. Resident Evil Requiem apparently is going to have the Last of Us combat system, and it's also going to have vehicles as well. It was recently confirmed that we'll be seeing Resident Evil Requiem gameplay during the opening night live ceremony at Gamescom, which, by the way, there's a lot of things being set to be revealed at Gamescom, so stay tuned. Set to take place on August 19th. Even more recently, notable Resident Evil leaker Dusk Golem took to social media to uncover a series of tidbits regarding the next major release in the legendary franchise. But in a series of posts, Dusk Golem claimed that the new Lightning and Shadow engines have been implemented, and AI system is unique and intelligent, and some open-level areas in Raccoon City will require a vehicle to traverse them. They, in a series of posts on social media, here's what he says: the following. Right now, officially, they've talked about you, as you mentioned, the ability to switch between first and third person on the fly, and basically designing two different games alongside each other to accomplish this, as to require big retooling to work with both. The new Lighting and Shadow engine, Hair engine from Pragmata, and additionally, we know that the Stalker uses a new dynamic AI system that they've done to behave uniquely and intelligently on the fly. There's few other innovations, some I know, but also sure I don't know all of them. A small handful I don't mind sharing is that they've been working hard to achieve having good performance on open level design areas like Raccoon City, along with a vehicle to traverse around it. The combat with Leon has seen huge innovations, honestly, some of Last of Us Part 2 isms, but also its own innovation. So keep in mind, guys, when it comes to Capcom and their engine is notorious for not being able to handle open world type of situations. This is why Monster Hunter Wilds had such a bad time, because even though Monster Hunter Wilds wasn't technically an open world video game, the way they designed the game was to try to make it as seamless looking as possible in between loading zones. So this game, and a lot of games like it, they run bad whenever they try to do open world with their engines. So unless they fix that and they make it better, we might end up having a similar situation where we're going to have lag. We're going to have a lot of crashing. We're going to have bugs, especially on the PC platform. I can't see how this is not going to be a thing, unfortunately.
Don't forget de novo, okay? They're gonna put de novo 100%. Capcom, if you really want to put vehicles, put a Humvee, or better yet, put a tank. Or perhaps put the same vehicle that in RE Village that can be customized. That's just my theory, okay? And again, look, Capcom, if you really want to utilize RE Engine, yes, I'm gonna call it RE Engine, remove de novo, okay? If you remove de novo, the RE Engine can run smoothly. Now the combat, hopefully there's innovation, but regardless of the innovation for combat or whatever it is, the horror aspect cannot be sacrificed. If that horror aspect is sacrificed, the game will fail 100%. Remember one thing, Resident Evil games or House of the Dead all have one thing similar: survival horror, aka the horror aspect. If the horror aspect is sacrificed, well, it's no longer an RE games. That's the one thing that needs to be prioritized. The first thing is horror aspect. The second, playable game. The next one is, of course, remove de novo. If you really want to use RE Engine, Capcom, just remove de novo. It's simple as that.
Now, in terms of the combat, I don't even know where to even begin with the combat, to be honest with you. I can't imagine a Resident Evil where you're playing as if it's like The Last of Us. I guess it could work, I suppose, but I think a lot of diehard fans are going to be heavily upset about this. There's been an effort to provide more environmental physics systems and interactivity for Grace's segments, where she has to work with the environment and more, and balance light and darkness, and more I won't say, and sure, more I don't know, but they have a lot more to reveal. So again, guys, this entire situation is unfortunate for the diehard fans. I think at this point, if they do end up going with a little more of an open world Resident Evil, I don't know if this is the right way to go with the franchise. And if it is, I probably would have waited until you completed the series. I feel like if this is the last numerical Resident Evil, if this is truly the last one, and they're not going to make it to 10, and then number 9 is the last one that's going to come out in terms of numerical continuing the story, then they should have just completed the series, complete it as it has been, and then once it's done and all the story elements are tied up, then with the next version of whatever the hell you do, then you can do whatever you want at that point. But if people are looking at a Resident Evil 9, then they're going to expect that it continues what they've gotten used to in the past already. But maybe with 7, they probably brought in so many new fans that they think people won't care. I'm really not sure.
Now that is quite true. Before this, I need to ask you guys this. What Resident Evil games have you finished so far? Give your answers in the comments, and if not, give your progress. So far, I believe, in my opinion, I think I'm currently playing, I've already finished RE4 Remake. Well, except the separate ways though. I don't know, I like Ada Wong, but when I got Leon's fedora and Ashley's suit of armor, I think that will be enough. Now, RE2 and RE3 Remake, I haven't exactly finished yet. I'm about to start, because they say if this is the final entry, I'm probably going to start with RE2 Remake and RE3. No, RE4, it's not tied to that. I already finished that, I believe so. Same goes for RE5 and RE Revelation. Revelation 1, I already finished. RE5, already finished. And somehow the save file corrupted, but I know I finished it. And there are gonna be more, the remake entries I do mean. So I'm gonna finish most of those, and hopefully I'll be done by that. We don't know when it's coming out. I'm probably gonna finish any RE games that tie to Raccoon City only, okay? Not the newer ones, okay? Only tied to Raccoon City. The next one is that I think Capcom should remove de novo. If they really want to utilize RE Engine when it comes to open world, then de novo must be removed. Yes, it has to be removed. Otherwise, it'll be buggy, it'll be glitchy, and it will take time to load. We all know de novo affects performance. Sorry, I couldn't even say that. Leave a like and subscribe if you want woke or anti-woke detected, or you just want to see me play games, or perhaps you like trending topics. Visit my second, third, and fourth channel up here or link in the description.